All right, we're live. Welcome to Virtual Temple Complex. We're having a roundtable discussion about just surviving and healing from MK Ultra. Some of the things that we've experienced, trying to help other people understand what these programs are doing, what's going on, and in a positive way, where we're trying to help other people understand. There's some echoing going on. I should probably wear headphones. But basically, we have the legendary Miesha Johnson with us today. And we also have Olivia James, who hasn't been on the show yet. And of course, we have Nathan and Brian, who, if anybody's watched this, you're probably familiar with them. And yeah, I guess, want to give Miesha a chance to introduce herself, and then also Olivia as well. So Miesha, you can start, and then kind of hand the microphone to Olivia.
Okay. Thanks for having me on the show. And I do want to tell you that I started this whole journey in 1990, basically, with my support groups that I did out of my home then and through a um, UFO International Congress that I was part of as well. No, excuse me, UFO Contact Center International that I was part of. And so that's when I started the support groups. And the support groups have been very, very important to me. Um, it's my entire mission is to help people have a place to share their experience, to go through their experience with other people in a private setting, in a group setting that is private, I should say. Of course, never taped, never recorded, never no one ever talks about what goes on in there, or is not supposed to anyway. But it is one of my taboo rules, basically, is no communication about what's going on in the group and what anybody has said. So I do those groups. I did them for about 35 years now. And now for the last 11 years, I've been doing them online through virtual Zoom. Um, so I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. I also am a psychic reader to help people find out what the galactic planets of origin are, their mission, uh, in their own experiences and such of how they've had what they've had experience and what all of the problems that have come up in their life from childhood, whether they're problems or whether they're good galactic contact. So it's all different types, and my groups consist of many different types of groups. Um, so this kind of gives you a little bit of idea. The online groups, I have 3 groups a week, and they're all different topics.
And then you also have books as well that people can find, and you have a website that I've linked in the description as well.
Mhm.
And books are extremely helpful for survivors, just as a tool and a resource. They've been helpful to me, so thank you for that. And yeah, if Olivia, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, hi. I'm Olivia James. I have two published books called the Gray Mouse series. The first book is Gray Mouse, Sex, Space, and Mind Control, and the second book is called Gray Mouse Purgatory, regarding MK Ultra, mind control, and various aspects of the programs.
Okay, that was a great introduction. Very concise, very straight to the point. Um, so one of the things we're going to be talking about today, and if I kind of want to pass it on to maybe Brian right now, is this Project Oblivion. Do you want to maybe go into that a little bit, Brian?
Yeah, well, I was doing a consultation with Miesha myself the other day, and I think it was on Monday. And a lot of I'm happy to share my own kind of build a bit up, like when I do consultations with people in the community. It's not necessarily just about myself. I'm always asking about myself in relationship to the full disclosure movement, right? And Miesha said, well, along those lines, she said that she'd done a session with Olivia, and that Olivia was happy to share this information with everyone. Otherwise, she wouldn't be sharing with me information about Olivia's session. But Olivia has been kind enough to share to to come here tonight as well to share this about how apparently, and this is going to be the meat of our show here, during their session with Olivia under hypnotic regression, Miesha was able to speak with a handler of these dark programs, a handler in these programs who is handling or attempting to handle our friend Olivia here. And this handler apparently came through with a message that the other side that the handler works with they're launching an operation known as Project Oblivion to basically retaliate against all of us, especially the testifiers and survivors in the movement. Um, Sorry about that. In the movement, because we as a whole are making too much headway in terms of this information becoming more credible and known and accessible to the masses. And so, with that, I'd love to hear from Olivia's perspective as well, because I know Miesha might have had some. Yeah, it is. Let's let Olivia speak for a while.
Yeah, hi. So I guess just wanted to say that I wasn't being handled by a handler. It's
Yeah,
particular, it's
yeah.
an ability I particular have. I call it side remote viewing, and I also call it hosting. So when I'm in a specific state of consciousness, and Misha has helped me with a lot of regressions. I've used other regressionists as well, but my main portion of my work is with her. What I do is I shift into a different state of consciousness, almost something akin to like a trance, but way more complex and deep. And in that process is how I'm able to allow various either different types of beings, let's just say, that actually use my body. And it's not just me channeling, they're actually using my body to speak and interact with present time. So that is how I have the ability to speak to handlers, to remote view records, to remote view government records, to remote view going into secret bases, things like that. That's how I'm able to do that. And when I do remote viewing, it's not just a basic scientific process of remote viewing with coordinates. It's something that I call cyber remote viewing myself, because it's more than that. It's an actual psychic ability. And I don't recommend anybody else trying it. It's something that I can do particularly because it's very risky to try to go into bases, and to allow handlers to speak to you through you is incredibly risky. So I've taken that risk for everyone else. So that's how I'm obtaining this massive amount of information for other people and to release it to other people. It's my choice to do that. So what I did is, in this particular session, I was able to let a handler speak through me. And this particular handler decide, and you know what? Many of these handlers, they're not afraid, because they always tell me we can say whatever we want and that no one's going to believe us. Everyone's going to think we're crazy. And, it's just going to, there's no problem doing it. They've never been afraid. Anyone I've ever talked to, none of them have ever been afraid of what they think we could possibly do with the information that we've obtained. And when I'm doing this, I also do something called talking to someone's brain. So I'm not just talking, to, a piece of them. There's so many different parts of a person that you can speak to. I'm talking about the front personality, a different alter, part of their brain, part of their higher self, their spirit, their soul. There's so many different pieces to it. So sometimes I get lucky and I'm able to talk to that dark part, because that is where a lot of the information lies. It's not in the lovey-dovey light part of a person. If we're going to be getting down to the nitty-gritty to find this information, we need that information. No matter what, if they cuss at me or, threaten me, that's fine. So on this particular day, we were able to talk to a handler, and this particular handler saying that are working on getting, at the time they were working on getting the green light for a new project called Project Oblivion. And I knew it was that because as soon as I went to this place, that's the first word that came to my head: Oblivion. And they pretty much said, we are going to blow up your lives. And that's what they want to do. They said our movement, no matter what anybody thinks, is becoming very powerful, because we were, everyone was so used to us talking about things, that they considered unbelievable and almost like entertainment. But now they said the movement is picking up a lot of steam, and the fact that many of us are becoming rational, and people are seeing us as more rational because that's what we are. But they're actually, supporting that, type of behavior and the way we're acting now. So this is why they feel it as a threat. And they specifically think that people that are talking about off-planet programs, black ops, things like that, we're the main threat to that. And I did see a list they showed me, and the list was so long and there was so many people on it. I couldn't, there's no way I can memorize all that people by just like one shot of looking at the list. But there were people on their names. I saw my own name. So it's a huge list.
You
There's
saw
so
my
many people
name.
on. Yes, there's so many people on
Mhm,
this list.
mhm,
So they said that these are going to be the main targets, and one of the biggest targets is going to be podcasters. And there's, specific people in the community that have been actually working really hard to allow a platform for everyone, no matter no judgment, anything. So they said that's going to be a major target for them, is anybody that's allowing everyone to speak without judgment. There's some people that pick and choose who to have on their show, and that's completely fine, that's their show. But they said that the main people that are going to be targeted are those that are just giving so many people a voice that would have never had a voice if they hadn't give the opportunity to speak on a particular show. And they said it's just picking up so much steam and moving so quickly. They said they really decide that they have to crush this now. There's no opportunity except for crushing. There's no other option except to crush us. And they said, we will crush your movement. They said, we will do this. And so they said they're going to come at us pretty hard once they got the green light on it. And this was months back. So they definitely have the green light on it. We're going to see a lot of attacks in terms of medical attacks, like health attacks. They're saying we're going to see a lot of mystery illnesses pop up. And they actually said it's through the phone. That's what the handler told me. I can't guarantee that that's true or not. He said, there's stuff in the phone frequencies or something that's going to be affecting us and causing, not only gathering intel, but also, causing some type of health issues. And there was a particular issue that the handler was saying, is that he actually said that they are using a specific software program called Spider Tracks. And this program is to track the connections that have been made within our community. So soon as you talk to somebody, they've tracked it. As soon as you say something to somebody else, they've tracked it. They've tracked all of it. That's how they do it with this computer software program. And it was created, there's a subcontracted agency that's running this that bought the contract, and they're called Roundtree. So they're the ones utilizing the Spider Tracks program to maintain intelligence on the entire, what I call the network. So they're really working hard at making sure they know who's, picking up the most followers, or people, or whoever people are listening to, who's gaining attention based on this. So this is going to be a huge issue for us in the future. And they also said that what they are doing is they pretty much laughed at us. They said, we've sent people to you, just one person, and you guys all fall to the ground, like puppets without a string, because you're so weak. All we have to do is send one spy, one agent, and you guys, the infighting just blows up and blows up your whole community. And that's what they're saying, that how they said it was so easy to do that to us. It's pretty much ridiculous that, we allowed it to happen, that they just blew everything up just by one person. They said, we only have to send one person. You guys all fall like dominoes. That's exactly what they said.
Now, Olivia, and this is very amazing and important information that you and Miesha have joined us specifically to share with us tonight. I have to ask a couple of questions here. One is, are there any countermeasures, I guess, that we can employ on our side that you know over, that this handler person you were maybe
Yes.
able to kind of finagle out of his information sphere?
I did. So my dead father came through, and he spoke through me, and he had this amazing message for all. He said to just keep talking. Don't let them silence us. The more they silence us because we become afraid, is the worst things are going to get for us. He said to keep going. He said that there is no other option except for us to, continue. And he said, just remember, you will not lose. That's what he always said. He said, you will not lose. And he said it so with strength, like there is no other option except for winning in this. We have to come out as the winners and keep talking, keep spreading the information, keep telling people about this, because after a while, people are going to catch on to the fact that this isn't games. This is real. We're not telling stories here. This really happened to everyone. People are going to realize it, and it's not too far away.
Now, in terms of numbers and things like that, it's one thing. This is total speculation on my part, but it's one thing to have a community of experiencers and testifiers, starting to go out on podcasts in the tens, and maybe the dozens. But once you start to get into the hundreds, and then you're starting to hit into the thousands, I have to ask, what is the capacity of the other side to really bring the heat on thousands of us all at once? Like, how do they expect that to work, honestly?
Easily. They expect it to work easily, like it has worked easily, because they've won so far with all the way the community, what has happened to our community. They've won so far. They see themselves as
Our
winners.
community is very divided right now, and I've been saying a lot on my show. And like, actually, the whole point of this show is to invite people who maybe disagree or whatever, to try to hopefully get them to get along and just try to. It's kind of a call. We're gonna call it the Unity Project, but there's like a million things called that. But I've noticed that myself, and just how, like, it turns into like a bunch of different people at their little lunch tables, and they've got their little cliques, and they're people very possessive of who they have on their show or who they don't, and if they cling on to some sort of narrative or whatever, then they get obsessed with it. And sometimes it's true, so I mean, it's hard to judge. But what I'm getting at is basically, it's like the infighting has come to a point where they that's what they want, exactly what they want, because what they fear is us being united and creating a large cohesive movement. If we just got a bunch of little things over here and over there, and the lunch table effect, as I'm calling it, like, if we have that going on, then it's very hard for us to make an impact, because especially a lot of people are like, well, their information conflicts with mine, and they argue with each other. And then that's what the public sees from the outside, is that all these people are disagreeing, they're not getting along, and it further contributes to the narrative that we're all a bunch of kooks and we're all crazy, and it just doesn't help anything at all.
Yeah, and they said one of the main themes that they're going to send to us, the handlers said, that is the theme of betrayal, because because of how destructive betrayal is to the human psyche and to the community. That's one of the things that will destroy us, is betrayal on in any level. That's what they told me. So that's the theme they're going to push on us moving forward.
Now, I like to speak to this because, I've only joined the community as an organizer advocate within the last 2.5 years or so. And I've already seen the level of division and infighting, but really the level of unhealed trauma, as people at the same time are recalling the traumas and the memories associated with those, and then dealing with the alters and each other, the relationships of trauma bonded twins and things like that, and that's been difficult enough, for sure. In terms of the themes of betrayal, we've definitely been seeing this in the community, but I also want to say that over time, we've been getting much more wise to this and how to deal with this in a principled manner, so that we're not turning it into personalities, but it's more along the principles of what is consistent with the needs of advancing the movement and what is not. And we've had recent examples with our own full disclosure conference, for example, issues in the community. But at the end of the day, the more we are able to clearly speak and elucidate our positions in relationship to principles, the more and more it's going to shake out, where it's going to be a meritocracy. Leadership gets to lead because it's effective. And if it's not effective, it can get out of the way. And I think in that, yeah, the other side, they're going to do their best to throw lawn chairs in our way as we're running down the racetrack. But it's only going to get us, we're only going to be able to, now we're going to learn how to jump higher as we run fast.
As
And
someone is,
oh, go ahead. I just wanted to say that the handlers and the agencies definitely think that we are an easy target, and everyone should know that and be prepared, because they consider us the easy target and that we're all are going to fall. They think that it's going to be squashed quite easily. So that's just the reality of what they expect, and that we have to figure out how to counter that.
There's one other thing I wanted to point out too, that, and I'm positive I'm right with the right verbiage, because I took notes, of course, too, that during the session They also said those who speak out are going to be punished. There's going to be punishment. And of course, she mentioned, about health wise and different things like that. I also want people to understand too that there's infiltration. And so, like, I've had situations where my groups have been infiltrated, and I actually have a couple of people, including Olivia being one of them, to kind of be the guard there to help me so that I don't miss seeing something. So it's really important that people understand and get their discernment up. Understand if they're getting those feelings that there's something wrong here, you really need to trust yourself. Unity is the only answer that I think we have for this. Is the more unity that we can come together. In fact, I saw this image of us hand in hand all the way around our what I call our movement as well, holding hands and not letting them break us apart. I think that unity is the biggest answer, and standing in our power and realizing that, what they may say that we're this and we're weak and then we're not, but we're not. We're not. There's no weak people that came onto this earth to do this mission. There's no weak people. We're all fighters. We all have the power to do it. And I do believe that if we keep coming together and also pointing out the whole idea that this is happening, that they won't have the power and strength behind them that they think they have.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few things. Thank you for everybody for coming here tonight, and for everybody who's here in the chat, and for everybody who watches us. Olivia, when you were talking, I got chills going through me, because not only was I told most of the same things that you were by the handlers that I've dealt with after you were told that, but I literally feel like that I've stepped in the middle of a minefield, because everything that I wanted to do as far as trying to fix this community is in opposition with everything that they were explaining to you. And the moment I started to do this, I mean, they were going after me before this, but just in the last couple of weeks, just in the last 10 days, I had a guy try to run me. He sideswiped my van. He left a scratch on it because he was trying to push me over to the other lane. I swerved when I got in the intersection. He tried to T-bone me in the driver's side. I stopped before he hit me, and then he left. I had that. I've had my doctors quit on me. I've had doctors simply refuse to prescribe medications that I've been on for years and all of it. And then I've got to go to a new doctor. I've just been to a doctor today. The same thing. I got turned down. He'll take me as a patient, but he won't do anything for me. I've got medical COINTELPRO out the yin yang, and it's really amped up. Health wise, I've got more neurological pain. I'm having trouble walking. And it's like I'm being hammered. And they hijacked my GPS today, which I've never had that happen before. It was weird. I've had them do other shit to me too. I've had them zap me just in the past few days. I've had all sorts of things, and I've had just absolutely hardcore V2K threats. I mean, they went from trying to be nice and then trying to, to use that strategy just to set me up for something. And now it's just we want you to kill yourself. If you don't do it, we're going to kill you, and we're going to shut you up. And it's gotten really nasty just by doing this podcast. So we are literally taking on the beast right now. And it really has to be a little bit unnerved. Now, I usually don't get that way. It's just because I've had a bad couple of days, and just hearing that, it's just like, wow. And the other thing too, just one last thing. I've been feeling like we've done this before. I keep having this feeling, and it's like I send Arkeem an idea, and I feel like I've already sent it. And now I feel like all this has already happened, and it feels like I'm going to die at the end of it. So I don't know if it's 5 years, 5 weeks, 5 days, or what, but it feels like this is it. And some of us don't make it, and some of us do, but we all make it at some point. As a community, we have to make it, but not all of us make it through this, because they're going to take some of us out. And I don't mean just kicking us off the internet. I mean killing us. So that's what
I was gonna talk about some of the illnesses that the handler kind of expressed that I was able to pull from his brain, and that was there's going to be a lot more incidents of issues with blood vessels, chambers of the heart, blood clots, fibromyalgia, nervous system disorders, skin conditions. So that's not something that we usually talk about in the programs, but those are going to be some of the newer um, tactics or strategies that they're going to attempt to to utilize on us during the Project Oblivion. So that's just a few of them that I was able to pull from his brain.
Caused by psychotronic weaponry, Olivia?
As far as I couldn't see the exact machine that they're using, that's just what I pulled from him in terms of the next strategies. So it could be from a new type of technology or something they already employ.
Because I do know that many of us do have had issues with different organs having attacked with them and putting us in the hospital and things like that.
Yeah, and they said that they're going to make us rot from the inside out.
That's right. I remember that.
They said, we are going to make you rot from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Olivia, I'd like to ask here, and many people in the community are very, very hip. Hey, Catherine and everyone, and hey, Robert of Typical Skeptic Podcast.
Hey guys, good to see everybody.
Good to see you. You dropped into a heavy one here. Olivia, a lot of people in our community have been reporting on this, wireless or biological Internet of Things. They're putting stuff in the food, they're putting stuff in the cocktails that they inject people with. And so so if they've got these phones that they're going to be using a lot of these frequencies, I'm just wondering how much of it is like a phone and frequency out of that in and of itself versus frequencies in the phone interacting with all the stuff that we're getting hit with by the chemtrails and this other stuff.
They have their own methods, and they even have their own machines. Like I've talked about in previous shows, they have a couple of machines that I was able to see, the Green Devil and the Wasp, which those are some of their best machines that they use to control us, just as remote handlers. They use those machines already.
Could you please describe both of those? Could you please in detail? We got to know what that is.
Yeah, the Wasp is a specific. It's really interesting that they use the Wasp because it causes mystery illness. Because what it does is actually so misaligns the chakras in your body. That's why no doctor can find the cause, because there is no cause. It's them. They're doing this to us. They so misalign your energy centers that you're completely destroyed. Like you cannot ever get it together. You're always going to be chronically ill. That's the Wasp. And they use that regularly. And they also use the Green Devil, which they've used on me. And I really don't like this machine because this is a particular machine that will flood your body with adrenaline. And some people think that adrenaline at high doses can be very corrosive to the body. So if you're constantly getting this, it makes you act erratic in it, because you get that initial like fight or flight response when you have a rush of adrenaline, and it makes you kind of look like you're crazy. So they feel like that's very funny to see us kind of shake and tremble and be scared and act out of character and crazy. They think that's very funny. And they did say that a handler told me that we are going to make this a planet of terror if you don't stop talking. So pretty much our choice, stop talking, or, we will have to release all these methods on everyone.
I just want to say, I mean, they have those things, but, also, they're putting it in our food. It's already in the air. And what I was going to say is a lot of targeted individuals are reporting that they're finding self-assembling nanites in their body. Now, what does that mean? That means it's graphene. That means it's, that's in there. That's these aren't even people that are your jab. These are, like I said, it's coming from the air and the chemtrails. It's coming in our food. They're hitting us in many different ways. So what I would say is I think we all need to band together and try to find supplements that aren't tainted, things like resources for us to heal each other. That's what we really should be focusing on, because we know they're trying to hammer us, right? We know they're trying to kill us. That's not even a question. We just need to find solutions. That's what I had proactive, because I was being attacked in my liver, and I really feel like it was a targeted thing. I thought it had to do with like my relationship, but also I felt like it was a targeted thing. So I was proactive. Matthew Morning was really helpful with that too. And a couple other people, Priscilla and Selena, and like the energy healers and stuff like that. So you can use a combination of things. You can use energy healers. You can use supplements. You can use, get your water as fresh as possible. Make sure you're getting the best foods. You know what I mean? Because it's in everything. I don't know if I made any sense there, but I'm just trying to help. I don't know.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, Robert, because a lot of the supplements that are popular in our circles include parasite cleanses and heavy metal detoxes, which some of these things are known to help combat the nanotechnology. And recently there's been video circulating of nicotine being used to basically totally dissolve nanotech in like little test tubes. But I wanted to ask Olivia, these machines, like the Wasp and the Stinger, or I forget the other one, what do they look like, and then how are they used against us? Like, how do they target us?
I don't know what they look like. Because I actually, so there was a session that me and Miesha did together. What I wanted to see my remote handler. So I was actually able to use the ghost dimension to travel to his house. He lives on the East Coast. And these are remote handlers, and they handle a caseload of about 33. So many of these people, they have a pretty low caseload, and their cover is a medical insurance company. So you'll never know who they are, and they pretty much work out of the home. They stay safe. They collect a really decent paycheck. And when I talked to the one that was working with me, he was a total jerk. He just said, pretty much, I don't care what you say. And I walked up behind him, and these are trained individuals. These are trained assets. So whatever ability I have, he has something similar. So he wasn't afraid. He knew I was there. He could almost talk to me in my own mind. So even walking up behind him, I was so close to him, I could see the hair curling on his shoulders. That's how detailed that was. That's how close I was to him. Pretty much put my astral hands right on his shoulders. And I saw that he started typing. And he started typing saying, because he knew I was there, and he said, the asset is combative and she's presenting with ill intentions and journeying towards memories. So remember that, because that means just the fact that I was trying to get closer to memories was a huge threat to them and what they wanted. Me and Miesha looking for memories was a threat. So when I got up behind him and saw that, after that, he said measures will be taken. And then he typed out the spleen and tremors. So that was what he wanted to employ next, and to show me that if I continued this mission, that my spleen would be affected, and that I would start receiving tremors to the body. Just by pushing a button on his little laptop, he's able to complete this act. And he can do that for anyone that was a previous asset. All of us are assigned, as far as I saw, all of us are assigned to one of these remote handlers, and they're all over our country and maybe possibly even the world. All they're doing is sitting in a room by themselves behind a computer. These are the guys in the chairs that we think are this huge major threat. These are people just sitting behind a chair.
So
do you think some of these people are soulless?
No, they're usually assets, Rob. Just like us. It's just that's what they do. That's how they.
This is my opinion. This is from what I saw.
Could it be like?
Let me explain what I saw.
Alter.
Let me explain what I saw. There is actually a handler division. These assets, just like we were taken and trained for certain things, they were taken and trained for this job, and they get paid very well for it.
And then Olivia, let's say this guy is in the East Coast in Hoboken, New Jersey, as some insured schmo, and no one likes insured schmoes anyway, so it fits the profile or the cover. And they're at their laptop and they've got their caseload, and Olivia's on it and Miesha's on it, and whoever within their, let's say they're 33, great number there, and is it that they're accessing just through their regular normal laptop or home desktop a larger network?
Everything in your house. They showed me everything in your house.
Well,
is a way for them to see what you're doing. Everything.
I mean, what I'm saying is they can access everything in our house, but for them, their user interface is basically them at a computer desk, and then like some of their stuff.
The technology is masterful. The technology they have is masterful.
Right, because
And
that technology.
they said that they're not afraid because they literally told me that they said we have so much money, you can't touch us. Do you know how much power and money we have? There's nothing any of you can do.
That's their
So that's
criteria
what
for
they told
power
me.
is how much money they have.
That's what
Well,
they said. They
they're
said, "We
in.
have more money than you could ever imagine.
You-
That's the power we hold." They said, "You can't take it away from us. We have everything we need. You're never going to be able to do anything except for suffer." That's what
eh,
they told me.
these
Right.
guys are
See,
dumb.
And
that's
that's the
why
best
that's why I
advice
went
I
back
can
to
give
like
to
saying
people.
like that's why I was upset that some of these people are soulless because it seems like they want to leash off of us, like off of our creative spark. Meanwhile, they can't do anything, so they try to destroy us. Or
These are
is it just
humans.
because we're
These
bringing
are
out the
humans.
truth?
These are
These are humans
humans.
like
I've seen inside them. These are humans.
Hey, look, I've been in contact with these idiots. I got 3 of them. And they were talking to me long before this under different personas, but I sat down with Olivia. We did a session, and she was able to get the first name of the main handler that I have, and he's a telepath, so he doesn't use tech. He doesn't have to use tech, and that's how he explained it to me. The other 2 are interfaced, probably with a brain chip or whatever. But as far as spying on this goes, they use remote neural monitoring. They can taste through your mouth. They can smell through your nose, see through your eyes, hear through your ears, feel through your skin. They can pretty much see everything around you, and they can control people in your vicinity who you're interacting with and set you up in the situations, such as the situation I had with the guy trying to ram my vehicle. When that happened, one of the handlers, and I think it was Alex, said to me, "How do you like that, Nate, you MFer?" And then when I was leaving the doctor's office, he said, "You're never going to get any doctor's help or a job." And that's what he said. So they call us clients, and they will literally just go after you nonstop. And the one thing I want to stress is that if you listen to what Olivia's relaying, it's all the same script. They all talk like that. And my advice to anybody who's listening to it is to don't take it seriously. Take it seriously as a threat, but don't take the stuff where they say we're all powerful and we can do whatever we want. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'll give my life for this cause, and F them. I don't care. And if everybody else takes that position and we start pulling together and we draw everybody out of the woodwork, this will change, and they won't be able to do this. So don't listen to that shit. Don't let it pollute your mind. Don't let it get you down. Don't let it discourage you, and don't let it make you fearful. Anyway, that's what I have to say. So
I was going to say that a lot of these handlers, the remote handlers that I've seen, not all of them really are the same, and they don't have the same script. Actually, they don't. I actually was able to host one of them who actually, this was really strange. He was actually really nice, and I don't know why he was that nice. I was doing it for a friend, and he pretty much said that, he's like, if you guys, he said, he's told this person, he said, if you don't want me to be in charge of you anymore, let me know. I can find somebody else. But he said the next person could be worse than me. You have to make a choice. Do you want to be handled by, somebody soft? So I feel like it's really manipulation. He was saying, do you want to be handled by somebody soft, or do you want somebody worse than me?
I got
So,
that same
whether
line.
he was being nice or not, it was, him trying to me manipulate the situation and say, he said, no matter what, there's going to be somebody else. So, make your choice. Who do you want? You want me, or you want the next guy, kind of thing. So that's kind of what I heard in my mind anyway. That's the way I interpreted it.
To help bring up more examples for the audience, just so they realize how real this is, and to give a shout out to our good friend Drago Reed in the community. He, like many others, spoke at our conference in July and suffered retaliation afterwards. And I know Miesha also, during my discussion with her on Monday, I know she has a lot to share along those lines as well. But I know for a fact that there's a mutual friend of Drago's and mine who she was telling me that she a couple of months ago now was literally getting voice to skull, where the handler voice was telling her basically she needed to attack Drago's reputation, or somehow go after Drago. And she said that this voice was bugging her over the course of a day or two, over a weekend, I think it was. And she told this voice, no, 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 go away, F off. And not 15 minutes after the voice stopped talking to her, this person, another person in the community who very publicly has come out saying ridiculous allegations against both Drago and Laura Eisenhower, which don't even make any sense to anyone paying attention. But that's how they use people against, but again, that I like to point out that that tactic didn't work. No one was scared off from Drago because some faceless person was writing 5-page long rants at a time about him and Laura. And if anything, it just showed like, wow, it looks like we're hovering over the right target.
I've talked to several people in the community leading up to the conference, Brian, and the same thing was happening with them. They were doing it with me towards you. They were doing it with me towards other people. And I know they were doing it with those people towards me or some other people. So they've been doing this to everybody. And they portray themselves as spirit guides, as, departed loved ones, as your higher self, as an altar coming through, as some benevolent extraterrestrial. The list goes on and on. Guardian angels, they will portray anything that they think that you will fall for, and then they will build your trust. And some of these relationships with people have gone on for a long time, maybe even decades, where they've built up this handler relationship, and the person is completely in trust to them. They don't question anything. They feel that they're getting love from them. And then coincidentally, as soon as this conference comes up and this big division takes place, all of a sudden, all these people that have been talking to these beings are now being told by those beings that the people they've been associating with all along are these horrible people. And they never said anything all that time before that. Everything's fine until somehow we start gaining some comfort. We start gaining some traction with breaking down the cliques. And then as soon as that starts, they just hammer the shit out of us. And it's such a childish way to take us down. We should be ashamed of ourselves. We need to put a stop to this shit. Absolutely. Right now, that's why we need to do this. And we need to get other people to do the same thing. We need to wake people up to this agenda and explain how this works. So one of the things I was going to do at the conference was talk about this shit. But it was the wrong timing for it. All this stuff had to blow out first. So here we are right now. What are we going to do about
it? I just wanted to put in there, part of it is intelligence gathering. So when we do this, we can have modes of analysis. So I think even things like this, getting individuals in the community to sort of attack each other kind of thing, we could give it a name, like this type of program that they're using. And that way we have a common language so that we can explain these things easier and we can identify it. We can build the criteria. So something like, I think we did it, and you even did the graphic for it, Arkeem, with the spy versus spy, the black spy and the white spy, always going one after the other. Even if we go, that's spy versus spy programming, and we just give it that name, now we have another analytical data point that we can do, that we can reflect on easily when these things are happening to us, because we should be looking at as well, like we were talking earlier about things like the psychotronic weapons and things like the adrenaline rush. Well, imagine you're combining something like B2K. Now you can give a person an adrenaline rush as you're you're manipulating the physiology while you're also working in the brain. Now combine that with another program, like I know somebody labeled once like a catcher program, and this is like the hyper religious programming sometimes that comes in when a person starts to also have their energy go up and understand things. They'll divert them by turning it into a type of religious programming, whatever their thing is. So now combine the religious programming, like this catcher program, to do this. So now they're starting to say, oh no, it's not been aliens all along. It's all about demons. and they got them like into this sort of like Christian programming, just as an example, right? Now they're combining that with the V2K, and they're combining that with the physiological stuff, and maybe just for kicks and shits and giggles, they'll throw in a good old-fashioned physical abduction by the military, where they throw in some type of contraption or whatever else as well. So now we're breaking down how it's working, because it's happened to me too. And I'm ashamed, because it's something that kept me away from the community for years, was when I was targeted, and then they used me in this way, starting to do these, like, you know, I won't go into all of it here, but the point is it caused disruption in the community, and then it got me to leave it. And ultimately, combining it with things like gang stalking on top of that at the same time, like, it's really about trying to like get these people to completely unravel. So like now, even when I see some of these people who are making like the hit pieces against other people in the community, I have a certain level of empathy and compassion for them, because I feel bad that they don't realize they're being caught in a program. They're actually being used as tools in this Project Oblivion, and they don't even realize that they actually think they're doing something good. They really believe it. And it's because they've got all this weaponry targeted at these people, and they don't even see it. So that's just what I wanted to add.
Isaac, there's
Sorry. Go ahead,
someone
go ahead, Brian.
Someone in the chat asked, what are the solutions? And just, there are many levels of solution, but one of the main ones really is it comes down to discernment. And I believe that the reason why a lot of people get recalled as they get older, it's because the programming is breaking down as people are living life here in the 3D world beyond the handlers or MK Ultra training them or trying to break them down in the beginning. And all the things that they were told at those young formative years just don't make sense anymore when you become a sovereign adult trying to navigate the real world. And when you have those levels of discernment, that can help get you to the point where if you're getting V2K'd with negative messages, you've got the discernment to fight them off. Now, I don't know how effective that is. Let's say if you have a handler trying to push the thoughts into your mind. But my understanding from Christopher Jacobs and Joanna Michaels, good friends of ours from thelifting.net and also presenters of ours, Christopher says that the things that drives handlers the craziest is like when you're at your conference and you're presenting and they're trying to like distract you and hit you with the beam weapons or blank your memory as you're speaking, and you act like they're not even there doing nothing and you don't even freaking notice it, and you give your best on that stage, and that's what really pisses them off.
And can I follow up with that, Brian? I was going to say, I think the number one thing that we have to do is we have to stick together and we have to network. If you're having a problem, you need to go to your friends and tell them what's going on with you. Like I did in my situation. I'm still having issues, but I mean, like, you know, like, I think the more that we talk about these things and the more that we actually stick together and we be there for each other. So it's not just sticking together, it's networking and being there for each other. That's so important, because that's what as you see, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to divide us, right? And they win if we're more divided. So the more we stick together, the more we network. And this is going to sound repetitive, but the more we care for each other, like actual care, you know, like about your brother is another human or sister is another human. That goes a long way, you know. And just if you can sense, a lot of times you'll get psychic senses about if your friend's not feeling good. You should act on that. Like if I get a sense that Nate's not feeling well, sometimes, because me and Nate talk a lot offline, and I talk to Dan a lot offline, and you know, like I can sense sometimes when they're not feeling right, and I might say something sometimes, and they'll say something to me, you know, like it's just like I think it's just kind of being there for each other. I don't know if that sounded corny, but I think it's what we need to do.
No, it sounded very strong, not corny. And
yeah, it doesn't sound corny at all to me.
No, what sounds corny is when you do the opposite and you don't talk to each other and you act ridiculous and submit to.
Yeah, that's actually way more corny. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah,
you sound like a strong leader, Rob, and thank you for being a pillar of the community.
Yeah, we all really appreciate you. We all really appreciate you, Rob, for giving everybody a voice and doing what you do. Your show. You're very important to this movement, and we all really admire you, man. thank you for what you do.
Oh, thanks. That means a lot. That means a lot. It's shows like this that are going to really do a lot of, good, I think, like with us all coming together, that's why I try to have the big gatherings and stuff too on Halloween. And I'll probably do one on New Year's too, because and then we have shows like this where you guys are having different people every week. And I just want to say, Nate told me that this was going to kind of be like a tribute to Miesha. And, like you guys know, I have Miesha on my show all the time. Miesha comes on my show and does readings. And Olivia also comes on my show, and our team does too. You guys all come on my show a lot, and you guys make up my show. If I didn't have you guys, I wouldn't have a show. So thank you all. But one of my best memories, honestly, is when I was at the Full Disclosure Now conference, and I didn't even know if I was going to make it, and I made it somehow. And then there was the two stages, and I walked in the second room, and I saw Penny Bradley, Sean Bond, and Miesha. They were having a group meeting, and there were some other people there that I didn't know, but I got to sit in on a meeting and have a meeting with Penny Bradley, Miesha Johnson, and Sean Bond, and it blew my mind. It was amazing. So thank you, Miesha, for all you do, and I consider you a really good friend.
Yeah, that was a support group meeting. Yeah, I was really glad that you came.
Yeah, I got something to say, Miesha. I had a whole different plan for this podcast, right? But apparently it really needed to go this way. So all I can say is what better way to do a tribute show to you than to prove to you and everybody else, and especially them, that the next generation, that this generation of the My Labs is going to be the ones that's going to jam it in their ass and break it off for everything that they've done to people like you and your generation and everybody else.
Yes.
That's a good point, Nate.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think a lot of us wouldn't maybe be here if it wasn't for the work that you've been doing for so long, Miesha. It really is important, and yeah, we all just really appreciate you a lot. I guess we're all kind of just telling each other how much we love each other right now, but that's okay to do sometimes.
It is okay, and thank you, and people such as yourself that are out there after, the people who will join my group and come to my groups and not be alone, not try to suffer in silence alone, but they come to the group and they get stronger and stronger. And then they go out and they're doing podcasts and they're doing their own mission. It just thrills me. It makes me so happy to know that, then I guess what I've, spent a lot of years in doing is making a difference. So I'm really happy because you people are the ones that make it happen.
Yeah, you're definitely making a difference, a huge difference.
You inspired the concept of this, like I told you. So everybody out there, Miesha support groups is what sort of gave me the idea for this, because something needed to be done as far as bringing us together, but in a different way where we were going to address the problems and get each other upset and then work it out. Because Miesha has kind of a different rule because she's doing something different, but she's bringing people together in the same exact way. So thank you for leading the way with that.
Thank you. Well, we do have problems sometimes in the group that we do have to work out because you have different personalities, people, especially when it comes to the targeting. Targeting is because they will actually do targeting on people while they're in the targeting group. So a lot goes on in those groups. They're very, very heavy groups. But if you're our listeners, if you are a targeted individual and you need a place to come and share with others who know how you feel, get ideas of how you can not only protect yourself, but protect your family. We come up with different suggestions. Physical, medical, emotional, spiritual, it's all happening in groups. So I do invite people to come to the groups, and it's not just targeting, it's many, many groups. Every group from ET experience to the Starseed Contact. I had the Galactic Light Language group and a channeling group. I have reptilian and gray experiencer group. Family groups where people can come and talk about their family together and their experience together. Because if a family can share their experience, because you'll have a family that will have experience when maybe you say you're like, for in my case, I was 9 years old, and I had siblings who were older than me, and we had this daylight sighting and an abduction. And we never talked about it until we became adults. And one Thanksgiving, we were all together and we started talking about it, and we could not believe that it had happened. So I want to provide a place for people to come with their families and share their experience as well.
Now, Miesha, while you have the mic, maybe we could take this opportunity for you to describe some of the forms of harassment that you yourself got hit with, going from our Full Disclosure Now conference into the Contact at the Sea event, which I'm sorry I didn't get to go to. That looked awesome, but can you please share with us about that? Thrown by our friend Margie K in the Unnext network, I think, right?
All right, sure. Well, I went to Contact to see a beautiful big cruise ship, and everything like that was wonderful. Our luggage was coming in on the evening of after, we signed in that morning, and then our luggage was coming in. My luggage got there, so I went back to my room after having a meeting with Susan Shumsky, who is the one that puts it on, and all of a sudden, I don't exactly know what happened, but I was hit by something and I was knocked down. And I was knocked down in such a way that it was sideways, and I twisted my back. At that time now, my roommate comes out of the bathroom and she sees me on the floor and says, "What happened to you?" And I said, "I really don't know. I mean, I just felt like something hit me, and I fell down and I twisted myself, and it was really bad." Long story short, I found a Reiki, not Reiki, acupuncture doctor there, who was in the massage area, the smart massage sauna and all that. And so I had him work on me for 3 different times. And then fortunately something else happened where somebody who actually, Dennis, who is he did the video and everything. He had a brace, so I put the brace on. So come to find out, okay, so this was happening, and I was going through a lot of pain. I was not really going to be able to do my Sunday, because this happened on Friday, and I had a Sunday morning interview lecture, and I didn't know how I was going to be able to do it. I was in so much pain. I went to the lecture, and that's when he gave me the brace, which helped me be able to handle the pain. And I was attacked as well by them when I started talking. They started trying to make me forget, and I said, "This is not going to happen. You've already done this. I'm going to just talk." And so I talked. I even told about Project Oblivion and got that information out. And then come to find out that 2 of the keynote speakers both had falls. One hurt his knee really severe and couldn't come on the cruise. Another one had a fall where he hurt his back. One of the women who were a speaker had a fall and during the cruise and had to get off the cruise and get back to a hospital. And then another speaker fell, but fortunately he said, I tripped on something, but I don't know. There wasn't anything there. I was just walking, and I didn't trip on anything that I know of. But next thing I know, I'm down and I'm sliding across the slick floor. So he landed in such a way that he felt like he helped himself. But we realized that they were after that cruise. Now, I've been on 2 other cruises, UFO cruises with them, and never anything like this has ever happened. This time it happened. We had a lot of dissension and the little clicks going on that I'd not seen as much. And it was the strangest conference I'd been to. So I finally came out of it and had more work done, and now I'm fine.
And Miesha, I mean, wow, that's, first of all, it's incredible. It sounds like you just named off like 6 people who got the sucker punch from nowhere, which is a really beach move, I guess I would say.
Yeah,
That's very, very dishonorable.
very dis-
But then not only that, it sounds like you're saying that the cruise, the contact, the event itself was attacked in other ways where maybe other people were getting voice decay to skull technology to cause them to be cliquish or negative to certain other people on that same event. And if it wasn't for this type of interference, things would flow a lot smoother.
Absolutely. Also, it was funny because there was a pretty good group of people in the exhibit room, and we could not believe it. No, they made an announcement, but nobody came in, or nobody. Every single one of us lost our butts. Part of the expression on it. You spend a lot of money getting there, and the other expenses and things like that, and nobody made any money back. Didn't sell books, didn't sell T-shirts, didn't sell anything. Really, not much of anything. It was really it was like we said, well, what did somebody put a note that said, a sign that says, "Do not enter this room"? We just couldn't believe it. We're doing readings with each other and things like that. It's crazy, crazy. I did see a few of that stuff happening at Full Disclosure too, where there was interference as well.
Yes, and I can talk about this. We're not going to name any names here,
No.
but somebody that from what we've gotten some done readings of our own with skilled psychics and people like Christopher Jacobs, among others, in his contacts, basically told us the information that it seems like one of the people at our conference was hit with a frequency or tone, which within the hour reactivated a dormant implant in this person. And then they utilized that implant to perhaps voice to skull attack him to make him think that another attendee presenter at the conference was somehow negative and an enemy of his out of the blue, which took everybody by surprise. So that was a main instance, and I would chalk that up to this. And then what makes it even more sinister is that it might then be that not only is this one friend of ours in the community being targeted through this implant, but then they might also be working with people in our community who might, I'd just say, that might be compromised, and then that might further open this person up to manipulation. And these are the things that we have to deal with in our community and be mindful of and be patient with each other.
We do. And we have to realize that there's an enemy out there, and that we have to, I think it's really important for us to stop and think and listen and think that maybe these things that are happening within these conferences and conventions and such, and the dissension that's happening actually on Facebook and all of the other places too, that it could be somebody who is handled. They're being handled. They are triggered. They are a sleeper. And have the unity that keep together. Discernment, very, very, very important. That's the very number one important thing to do.
And then we have protection. We do have protection on our side. For example, John Whitberg, and I have his permission to share this with the community because we're talking about doing crowdsourcing here. To then do remote viewing of who's attacking us and who they work for and how we can counteract them. And very recently, basically, John in his house with his family that he lives with, they have a gas line that runs up into the attic, I guess, because they may have a heating unit up there on the top floor. And John says that he woke up in the middle of the night to hearing some kind of weird sputtering noises. And it turns out that it looked like somehow the gas line caught fire and was catching stuff in their attic on fire. And if he had not woken up at that time, they could have all been crispy critters. And what he suspects is that he had protection, that people or, guardians that kind of woke him up psychically to let him know, okay, get up, you can't sleep through this?
I'm glad you pointed that out, because in my opinion, what I found that if we can connect with our guardians, our protectors, our galactics, our angelics, whoever you're working with, and really protect with them, then they will be protecting you. I have some protectors myself. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. So I do believe that's important to remember, that we do. All you have to do is ask. They're there. They'll help.
Brian, that's so crazy that you said that. I don't know if you heard what happened to me. Like, I don't know when that happened to John, but just recently, and Nate, everybody knows this. I talked about it in my Discord, and I talked about it on my show and everywhere. I woke up at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. My microwave was beeping. It was saying short circuit. And then I started smelling the wall burning. And I called the fire department, and they came. And I guess they had to turn the microwave breaker off, which I didn't know where that was, because the microwave was wired into the wall. And I thought it was a targeted thing, I can't say it was for sure, but I mean, it was really weird. And if I wouldn't have woke up, I would have been dead, or I would have lost everything. It was really crazy. It was really scary.
Yeah, I think in light of the circumstances with John Whitberg's incident, that would happen to you, Rob, because I thought, there's a lot of reasons this could happen. I told you that maybe the microwave was drawing a load, and it just happened to go up. But I think there's a better chance that it had something to do with the manipulation that's taking place and just a random malfunction. That's what I think. And sometimes your intuition gets overloaded. So that's kind of what was going on there, and still is going on. So I have to just go with it using deductive reasoning. But I think it was just another attempt from them, and they can do this to anybody at any time. And there's all kinds of problems around this house that are full of has to do with electricity, so I have to worry about that too now. I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. If they really want us, they can really get us, I guess. Or and that's what's scary. It's
Yeah,
like,
I guess
it's really scary.
I can speak about my weird thing is they had this guy who was like a homeless guy who probably didn't really know what's going on, probably some voice to skull things happening, but this guy would show up to the park that I live by, and I knew he wanted to stab me. I picked up on it psychically, and I knew to not go close to him. And sure enough, one of the days that I picked up on that, I was with Kat, my partner, and we saw him later on, and he's like walking around scaring like a screwdriver, and I knew he wanted to stab me with a screwdriver. I picked up on that, and I think it would have been one of those things where he probably wouldn't really have known what's going on. I think it was like a real MK Ultra thing, you know what I mean? But they have really just weird random ways where they can screw with us. And like, I really do think like in another reality, like I maybe didn't pick up on that or whatever. Like that could have been what happened. I could have gotten stabbed, but I knew this guy wanted to stab me somehow just because like I could pick up on it. So it's kind of weird that we it's like upsetting that we got to deal with that. And then the other part too is like the way they can target us like with our health and like our heart and stuff like that. Like that's just what can you do about that other than go live in the Appalachian Mountains in that one spot where there's no 5G and there's no internet allowed. The internet's illegal there. Like that's like the only solution I could think of. Like,
can I tell you, Arkeem? There's a girl in your chat right now. She's always in my chat. Her name's Warrior for Truth. I got to give her a shout out. She's a U.S. citizen seeking asylum in Ireland because she's a targeted individual. It's that bad that she literally left the United States. She's in Ireland. So shout out to her. Her name's Rhonda. She's amazing. And she's in the chat right now. She's an amazing person. I've gotten to know her, and she's just like, I feel so bad for her, and that she's had to endure that kind of stuff. So and she's not even out in public. You know what I mean? She's just a TI that they're just, you know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy. It's insane. It's literally insane.
Hey, there was a guy. I just wanted to add something real. Sorry, Brian, but there was a guy who was a TI. He was doing videos for a couple years. I don't know if he's live anymore. He traveled the world. He was worked for a defense contractor, and he blew the whistle and the FBI came after him. He became a TI, hitting the frequencies. His teeth were falling out. They were affecting his health. He had hearing damage, and he was traveling all over the world. He would do these videos. He found that no matter where he went, he could not get away from the targeting except Russia. That was the only place that he didn't get targeted with gang stalking and all of it. And he had documented gang stalking in different countries, no matter where he went. There was one video where a cab driver literally attacked him and knocked him down. He was on crutches at the time, and his leg was, I think, in a cast or a brace. So knocking him down, and I know how it is being hurt because of what they've done to me. You get knocked down, it's like an elderly person. You lay there for a while because you're hurt. And that's what happened to him. And Russia wouldn't allow him to seek to get asylum for that because he was being honest. I'm a whistleblower. The FBI's got it out for me. I'm a targeted individual and all of that. And he had his health records and everything, and he showed that on, the videos. But yeah, there's really no place to get away. Maybe Russia, but Ireland definitely is not going to be it. And because they're all under these treaties, they're all working together. The only difference is Russia, maybe a few other countries that guy didn't go to. They're on the other side because we have a grouping of the transatlantic nations, and then we have the Russians, and then we have some Middle Eastern countries that are all grouped together in North Korea. Unfortunately, those are your best bets if you're trying to avoid the targeting because the treaties are different, the programs are different. But if you're a MyLab, you may not even get help in Russia because these are international programs and it's the entire planet. If you're dealing with something like political prosecution as a TI, Russia would probably be your best bet according to what other people have found.
Do you think that's because of Putin isn't putting up with that bullshit? Remember he called all the elites reptilians. I'm just kind of joking, but I'm kind of serious in a way. Do you think it's like that, or what do you think's going on with that?
Equally as corrupt. It's just that they're not going to go after the political enemies of the United States. That's it. But the TIs, like the MyLabs, I guarantee it's probably not going to help. One other thing too that I wanted to mention, I thought of earlier, is when you're in these situations with the gang stalking and the psychic street theater stuff where they arrange these things, sometimes you have precognition that you're walking into a setup. You got to use your intuition, of course, and follow out the best you can. The first thing that comes, if you feel it, try to get away from it. Don't ignore it. Usually the first thing that you get, the first inkling or sensation you get intuitively, that's usually the right answer. But one of the other things too is try to limit the all the toxic interactions that you have, and be careful where you go. Limit where you go, and make sure that when you go someplace, it's for a specific reason. Don't just go joyriding around because you're a target now. So, and what I've said before is that mind control is the most effective on people who are easily prone to that behavior that they're trying to induce in them. So if you can avoid those people, if you can avoid the sociopathic doctor, or the psychopathic sister-in-law, or any of those things, if you can avoid them, then you can reduce the level of manipulation that they create around you. So that's your best strategy there, but you're not going to get away from it because they're pulling the strings of everybody. And we're in a simulation. We're bound to 5 cents.
Well, one of the things that's really sad that can end up happening if you're become a little too obsessive about avoiding people and stuff is you can end up becoming very isolated. And that's the last thing that, it takes your power away from you to be isolated. And I feel like that's kind of happened to me in my life.
I'd say that's the purpose of the TI program.
Yeah, I feel like I've become very isolated, and I'm afraid, I'll admit it, I'm afraid of making friends with people, of friendships, of close relationships. I just don't trust people because of all the shit that's happened to me in my life, repeatedly, over and over again. And, I don't know. It's just I just feel like it's maybe there should be a balance, of being careful who you talk to, but also I think they want us to isolate ourselves, right? They want us to feel like we don't have a social network and feel alone. So we shouldn't do that. And I'm not just talking about other survivors. I mean, just you should be able to go out and meet up with your friends where you live and do stuff and have kind of a normal life, And I think that's what they really attack. I think they're maybe getting more bothered now by us talking because people are starting to take us seriously. And the thing that goes hand in hand with that is when people see us out in the world and we're normal people, doing normal stuff with normal lives. We got kids, we got families, we got, you know what I mean? When they see that, they don't like that. Like, they don't like that people see we're normal people, because that gives us more credibility. So I feel like they intentionally try to isolate us, try to make it seem like we have no friends, try to make it seem like we're social misfits, like we're weirdos. And yeah, we shouldn't, I'm talking to myself here, I'm getting emotional. We shouldn't let them do that to us.
No. Yeah. And,
I just wanted to
Okay.
throw one more thing. You can have the floor, Brian. What he was saying is true, but that's what I was saying. You got to kind of like keep those positive people around you, and you got to build these networks. And you got to do that in society, because you need those people, the normies. You got to do that with them, and you got to do that with people here in this community. And you've got to be able to discern when it's time to open up to someone and when it's time to back away. And it isn't easy, because we've been traumatized and put through all this crap. And one of the things that is really bad for us is rejection and that sort of thing. And that's because of what we've been through. And that's one thing that they use against us. And it's why they divide us, so that we don't even have each other. So anyway, I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead. You got the floor.
Thank you. Well, along all of these lines, I want to give a shout out to Penny Bradley in our community. She's definitely been a targeted individual and has been hit with directed energy weapons, and she has medical documentation of this, of like internal burning, that her doctor's like, what is that? Like, how does that, you've been to a nuclear power plant recently, or like what happened? But I was going to ask Olivia if there are any particular techniques that you found that you might recommend in, is there a way to like psionically utilize your abilities, particularly if you're someone from the programs, to then shield against this telepathic attack or even directed energy weapon attack?
I mean, this is kind of work in progress for me. So I'm still learning myself how to do all this. And, you know, I, I've been like blown away by some of the things that I can actually do, because I just didn't know that it was a thing that was possible. And when I did have an incident, me and Miesha were working together, where I went to try to remote view a government base on Mars. And I got there, and I was in the base, and I was where I needed to be, and I tried to get inside a secret room. It was a records room. It was all red behind. And the first thing I saw is there was 5 people, and they were what I consider a counter remote viewing team. So this base had a team already that were looking out for people like me that had abilities that could do this. So they were already there, and they were a mixture of men and women. And so what the battle became then is more like a mind battle. So they were able to, and we were trying to do it to each other. I was trying to push off energy, and so were they. But they weren't as strong as I thought they would be. But what they could do is they were putting pictures in my mind to make me feel as if I was being hit with bats. And let me tell you, it feels real. So the strength of these abilities it was very physical. It wasn't like it was just I was imagining something. It was just in my mind. It feels real when they are attacking you. It's definitely like psychic warfare type of thing. So I always call it like a battle of wills in like this particular courtyard, and like it was our minds doing this battle. So when you're asking the questions like how do I shield, I shielded by pushing off my own energy at them too. So it's almost was like a tug of war. And I didn't try to continue with that big of a group of people guarding something like that. There's been other bases that I've gotten into. There was one in another country called Pine Gap. I was able to get into this base, and right when I was going over the base, it's almost like I felt like myself was, when I'm starting to travel, flying over the space. And as closer that I got to the base, there was a huge, massive eye. That's all I saw, was this huge eye covering this base. And so I already knew that they knew that I was coming that way. They could see it already. They have their own people with the same abilities I have. They all do. So when I got to this place, I couldn't even, there's a very important room there in this Pine Gap that we needed to get into. We need this information. So what I did is I couldn't get in the room directly, so I had to go underneath using, your psychic ability to pull you underneath to push you back up into the main room. And so when I got into this room, there was numbers outside the room. They were red numbered, and I have no idea what that meant. But once I got into the room, I had to look for somebody, and these people, they're doing things to children. These are the people that are taking a lot of assets. So do I feel bad in trying to manipulate them to get the information? No, because I'm giving it to you all. So I'm taking the risk. So what I did was I had to find somebody that was kind of unfocused in order to take them over. And that's called, it's a mild form of remote influencing. So I did find somebody that was kind of unfocused. I was able to, it's almost like putting my hands on her shoulder and pressing my consciousness into hers just to get her to type. That's all I was trying to do, is get her to type out things. So she started typing, and I was trying to push her to get project names and things like that. And we did find some project names, like Project, Stranger, Project Barnstorm. There's a bunch of different Project Spectre. There's names of projects everywhere, and we need these. These are important so we can research. So, but I wasn't able. They knew I was there, so I was not able to continue this longer. And I literally was only able to get her to do it for 30 seconds. And there was a huge message that flashed across her computer screen. It said "break screen" in these big, huge green letters. So they knew what was happening. They have their own team. So they saw me right away, and I had to kind of abort and jump out. Like I'm just pushed out right away. So I had to sever that connection, or it was forcibly severed from what I can. So I'm still learning myself how to shield from some of these things. And, like I said, it's a work in progress, and trying to get new information all the time, because there's so much out there that we need to get our hands on and to give to other people so we can build our network.
Olivia, it's really interesting that you use this example. Oh, hey, look, typical skeptic. Thank you. No. and also thank you to Third Eye Warrior, or I think if I'm getting that name right. And I know you also on Facebook, so thank you for being here. Uh, my one housemate, business partner, co-executive producer for the Full Disclosure Now conferences going forward, Jaden Mills. He's very telepathic. He can telepathically speak with their dogs, and when he goes to sleep, he can also travel and go places. And one day, I always had a habit of asking, like, if he has any dreams or messages, anything that I should know about. And one day he told me, just wait. I might have found a base or something. I'm going to try going there. And I already knew. I've heard testimonies like yours, Olivia, that these places, they're going to have countermeasure teams. They can, if you go there and you attract enough attention, they could potentially follow you home, figure out who you are. And then now you just picked up people messing with you because you went to their base and you weren't on their radar until you put yourself there. And what Jaden says is this one evening, he's just discovering this ability, or he's still learning how to work with this ability. And he wanted to visit one of these facilities. And he says he got into the facility, and there's maybe like a walkway or something and vats of acid. And he says that he was looking at this vat of acid, and then all of a sudden the acid in the vat got splashed up into his astral body, into his eyes and all over him. And then he felt like someone pushing him into the vat. And then maybe he woke up, and then when he woke up the next day, okay, this is now in physical reality, his skin was all ashy. Okay, he's African American, and it looks like he had someone pour low level acid on him, so he had this white kind of just ashy grayness on his skin, which normally does not look like that. And his eyes, where his vision was blurred in the physical, to the point where he didn't feel safe driving for several days. And I prayed with him, and that seemed to help a little bit, and he's been recovering since then. But that is definitely a word of warning. And when I was speaking with our good friend Christopher Jacobs, And through his guides or contacts, they were saying, yeah, basically what Jaden did was the equivalent of walking up to the front door of the base, and they've got like all the security cameras. They know exactly. It's like he's trying to walk in through the front door, and then they let him in, and then they kicked his butt, and then kicked him back out.
Yeah, so they're very aware of a lot of us have these abilities. This is not unknown to them, and soon as you start traveling to there, they can see you. They know what you're attempting. They would even step forward. Like when I first got to the one on Mars, one of the people on the team stepped forward and said, "It is not unknown what you are trying to attempt, but we cannot let you in here." So they did give me that, brief warning, sorry. And they weren't like saying we're going to kill you or anything. They didn't say that. They just said, "We know what you're trying to do. We can't allow this." So pretty much saying turn back around, and of course I'm still trying to get in there and, trying to push my way a little bit. And it wasn't a smart move. So I have to start taking my loss and just backing out, which I do now. If I get somewhere and there's too much of an opposition, I will just back away. There's other ways to get the information. So that's just one route that I was using.
And this is something that might be of interest. I asked Christopher if there's something in his guides, uh, if there's something that Jaden could have done that might have been, effective in cloaking or masking himself. And what the contact said to Christopher was, well, yes, but you got to be really careful, because let's say you're employing some kind of like invisibility or mirror psychic shield so that the other side can't see you, and somehow you get into their base. And then let's say now you're observing some very nasty, negative, triggering stuff where they're hurting little people or they're doing crazy hybridization experiments. The moment you emotionally react, they're going to sense it. Especially like Draco reptilians are going to be super highly telepathic and psychic. And then now you're like in the middle of their base and you were invisible for all intents and purposes. And then you see something nasty and now your shield drops and you're right in the middle of enemy territory. So they caution against that.
Yeah, that happened to me when I was in. Yeah, that's when I was in Pine Gap. I don't do a lot of remote influencing. It was just a really important thing for me to see what was in the space and get this information. So I try not to do that too often. But I noticed I was working with somebody else and they said I came in very heavy because it's almost like trying to possess someone else. So you come in, your energy is very heavy if you're pushing it down on somebody. Some of these things they've been working on since the 50s, and they're measurable. These things are measurable when I'm doing certain things using my abilities for certain things. It's scientifically measurable. They even did that when some of us were children. They're measuring when you have that ability in you, what is certain electrical outputs, different brain waves, frequencies. They've already have a lot of this measured just from the basic programs that they're using. So I was just coming in a little bit too heavy because I'm not an expert. It's just something I'm trying to see, just to gather information.
I wanted to mention the question about protection or something that could be done with this is just I just started doing this in the last maybe 2 months that I bring in a Maharic field. It's actually a Maharic shield that comes from Gaia energy into hypnotherapy, so that when the people are being the inductions are happening and I'm putting them under, I also have them imagine or visualize this shield that's like 3 feet around, and it goes from the bottom of their toes all the way up to the front, to the top, and so that they can interact and move around without being seen. And we found some real good things that it worked really well, really well. In fact, I'd love to do it with Olivia and see how we do.
Miesha, do you remember the one time that okay, so there was one session where me and Miesha were working together, and it was kind of like a dire situation because these 3 people came into our, I don't know, energetic field, these 3 people, and they asked us if we wanted to go to war with them. these 3 individuals. And of course we
Oh
did
yeah.
it. It was kind of, I was still learning how to do this. And I think, I don't know if my energy was feeling kind of anxious because, I don't know how strong these 3 are. I don't know what to do. And I had never felt anything like this, but Miesha, somehow she just said, call your dragon. And I didn't know what it meant, but my higher self did. And in that immediate second, I just felt my entire chest kind of like built up in like flames. I felt it. And I even remember saying that I feel it's so hot. I feel it. Like
Mhm.
it was a real feeling. So when we're talking about these measures, and especially when you're under like a trance or a hypnosis, this feeling is very physical and is very real. I felt it, and I was able to push back these 3, with this huge energy built up inside me. And all she did was say, call your dragon, in like a very firm way, and something inside me just, it came alive.
Yeah, it's really great that you use this example, Olivia, because our good friend Drago, he's spoken about this too. He said that he was in a situation where, I forget what exactly the situation was, but it was like maybe he was sleeping or something, and they were trying to, like, 3 different operatives were trying to mess with him in this one dream or this one meditative state, and he could sense them. And he basically let them know, I am used to this, and I have my own dragon fire countermeasures. And if you don't leave, and I'm going to be nice, I'll give you a 5-second countdown. If you don't leave, I'm going to show you. You're gonna wish you had left. And so apparently he said that he starts counting down from 5 to 1, and before he got to 0, 2 out of the 3 left, and the one that stayed, he maybe visually or astrally, he literally burned this person with, like, in visualizing dragon fire coming out of his mouth, and that very did burn this person.
Yeah,
And yeah,
it's real magic. And I felt it, like I felt on fire. It's real magic of what your body, your mind, and your soul can accomplish when you're switching into a different state of consciousness. The limits that we know in our human body are left behind. We don't have that. That's how I'm able to accomplish these things, is because, I've been working with Miesha, and she's helped me train myself to leave some of those limits behind, and to, really go and reach the outer realms.
Yeah, this has worked with other. That's why I didn't. You weren't the first one that we used dragon on before. We find that because the dragon has a symbolizes the power, and the magic dragons, which were really a positive group of beings. A lot of people now have, not a lot, about 3 or 4 other people, we've done it, and it works really well in protection. And the whole thing is, when I saw the whole thing about dragon, I knew that my belief system is I'm protected by it. Okay. So if you can believe and truly believe, you can protect yourself. It's all about believing that it's not just imagination. It's not just magic.
it's quantum entanglement. If we want to get sciencey for all you doubters out there, fine, we'll use a scientific term. Forget magic. It's not magic. It's quantum entanglement. You feel better, but it works.
Right. I didn't know that. Quantum entanglement. I'm going to have to research that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. The concept that 2 particles that are quantum entangled, it doesn't matter how far apart in the universe you bring them. If you flip one down, the other one will flip down, and simultaneously, and vice versa. It's like that concept that we know it, where we can think of a loved one, doesn't matter how far away they are. If you feel that love, like, a lot of times they'll pick up on it, and they'll end up calling you, hey, I think that's quantum entanglement right there, or magic, however you want to say it.
Quantum entanglement. I like that.
It also
Say that word all the time, so I think that's the right one.
Yeah, what I was going to say is it manifests as astral filaments, silver cords, or other types of colored cords is what you can see. So, but yeah, I wanted to add one thing. I got attacked. I had one of these handlers, whoever it was, push their energy body right on top of me like it was a rape, and it was almost like an instantaneous reflex. But I just exploded with white light, and he looked like a trash bag that got hit by like a wind tunnel, like a current of wind, and he just sort of like rolled around like a trash bag and like flew away. And he came back a few times. He wanted to know why I did that. He was like screaming at me, "That hurt. Why did you do that?"
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's what we need to do
Your
is remember a
microphone went
lot.
out, Nathan. You must have hit a button or something. Your microphone went out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry. I just wanted to add something. I had another incident where I defended myself, and then this reptilian, or what was portraying itself as a reptilian, I'm not sure, but he screamed at me to stop, and I said, "Wait a minute!" I said, "I thought this was just in my imagination," and he said, "Your imagination is real," and he screamed it at me. So I just wanted to add that these visualizations are actually more than what you think they are, and they can trick you into thinking you can't do anything, and then give you an aversion to it because you try to meditate like I've tried to do, and then you don't get anywhere, you don't make any progress. Maybe you know somebody and they're getting it easy. It's all a way to get you to stop doing things and to stop defending yourself and to be a victim and to feel like you can't do anything about it. And then they've got you. So don't let them do
Yeah,
that.
Nate, I just wanted to add to that, like real quick before anybody get a good friend that or everybody is a fan of here probably is James Bartley, and not many of the people we know get on Coast to Coast AM, but James Bartley was on Coast to Coast for the second time recently, and I listened to it. I reached out to him afterwards. I said that was amazing. Anyway, James says in his interview that there's been cases recently of women getting raped by reptilians, and he said like their kundalini's off the charts for the next 24 hours for whatever reason, or their psychic abilities. Like that's a direct quote from his interview. I don't know why that's happening, but
I can speak to that. I can speak to that, and shout out to James because James Bartley is he's agreed to be a presenter at our conference next year. He'll be coming.
Oh, that's awesome.
From Australia.
That's cool.
Yeah, and Ida
Yeah.
Farhat, another executive co-producer, helped to arrange that with James and I. But I suspect for that, Robert, is that when these especially the reptilian Dracos, if they're doing things like assaulting somebody, they do it on multiple levels, sexually, and also emotionally and etherically, right? And telepathically. And so if you're quantum entangling with this being, and even that as nasty and intense a way psychically as well as that, right? Then, it seems like people who practice their telepathy, they become more telepathic. So I would suspect that these poor women having to endure that's a side effect of that level of quantum entanglement or telepathy with these reptilian beings.
That's insane. Yeah. Dan, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the interesting thing from all of this is like when we talk about going within, I mean, it's literally going within. Like you said, Nate, like you had that person attack you or whatever, and you it's almost like your survival mechanism kicked in, and you tapped within an ability that you don't consciously recall that you have, but you do have something that you already know. So I want to like really emphasize this idea about knowing and remembering, because as we see, like the whole taboo here is about memories. And I know in the SSP, that's what they're always going on about. Don't talk about your memories. Don't do this. Don't do that. Like within the SSP, while you're on missions in the SSP, the whole thing is this taboo because we do have this within us. Every time I've dealt with angelics as well that have taught me things. And when they teach you it, it's like in the Matrix. It's not even like you have to know how to do it. They just unlock it because it's already within. All these abilities are within. So sometimes we got to look at this as a way of sharpening our skills, getting better at things, enjoying the challenge because it elicits us to respond in new creative ways that get us better. That's what makes us more advanced. Just like a martial artist needs to be with a better opponent in order to gain his skill or her skill, so too do we have to with these abilities. And I just want to say that so that people see like that we already have a solution and it's within us. So it's really learning how to tap within a lot, because it's just our conscious mind that doesn't know, but we do have it. And I know I've done it. And I mean, think about it. This is what they were doing in the first place when they were doing things like creating altars, right? They're trying to create these situations, just like in Stranger Things or whatever. They're trying to create these situations to activate people's abilities. So think about it this way. If that's that's the technique that they've used, well, we can learn how to do that too for ourselves. Like we could get thrown into some pretty crazy situations, but like you are, Keem, you feel in some ways more confident now walking the streets, knowing that you have that intuitive ability to pick up and say, hey, wait a second, that's danger. And now you know to listen to yourself better. So your ability has got better with that in the future. And I think that's what we can really build on as a solution, is really learning how to really align with our authentic self and our real inner knowing. And that's where we're unlimited. And that's where all their money, look at it, they can't even win an election with all the money in the world and everything else.
Yep.
But like, come on, they can't do anything. They can't win wars. They can't do lots of things successfully. So actually, the resourcefulness that we have, just one of us against an army of them, it's only working because we're fearful, we're not in our power, and we're not realizing we have these abilities within. I know I've stopped abductions, astral abductions, literally being pushed through the floor, room is warping, the bass sound is going off, and I just said no and push it off, and boom, gone, done. And I know even when it comes to things like abductions from the grays, half the reason they got to blindside you most of the time and catch you off guard is because they know that if you had a chance and you had that moment of real lucidity to respond, you could wipe them out so fast. They're toast. So they really do have to do these ulterior little underhanded ways because of our real power. So I just want to
Dan, you raise a really interesting point about the abductions. What our friend Audrey Walters tells us is that a lot of these ET races that are doing these hybridization programs, apparently a lot of times for them to be within the rules, they have a maximum of 4 hours to take us a lot of the time. So if you're able to stall them and fend them off and make it difficult for them, it eats up their time frame. It's really frustrating for them. So that might be, just another tidbit there, especially with gray abductions.
Yeah, I remember even before I woke up to most of this stuff. I'm sorry, I'll do it real quick, Miesha. But I just remember getting annoyed being in astral realms and having entities like trying to scare me and feed off my loosh. I realized this was going on after years and years and years of doing it. And I remember I got pissed off thinking, you know what, I don't want to give them the satisfaction of getting my loosh. So I developed my own technique, not knowing anything. I just tapped with him and I called it the rip cord. And I just wake myself up before they got the chance to scare me. And it would sort of get my adrenaline going, but I was like, at least you didn't get my sphere energy, jerks. And
actually, I've got one for you.
Good for that, right?
Actually, I had one of those dreams where I felt like I was being attacked, and it was like I was in a haunted Lovecraftian movie theater, old school. And then I look around, all of a sudden I realize, oh, I'm in a theater full of like Victorian-looking ghoul, zombie, like ghost-looking things, and like they're turning at me, like they're gonna grab me. And like the ringleader, he kind of like a top hat on, he was like gonna come after me, and it's almost like the minute he grabbed me in the dream, I said, in the name of Yahshua, like, I've got you. And then like before the whole dream faded out, the look on that being's face was one of fear, and then it faded out. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Miesha.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I just wanted to mention there was a fellow in my group that was being abducted, and it was kept having it happen, and he wanted to stop it. So this one night, the gray was next to him, and he's paralyzed like always, and he's thinking, okay, I gotta move a hand. I gotta move my hand. And so I gotta move my fingers. So he was able to move his fingers, and he said, okay, now I can move my fingers, or I can move. I'm gonna stop him. And so he reached over and he grabbed the arm of this being, and he heard a crunch, and in comes another being, another gray, and grabs him and takes him away. So I mean, they're really easy to break into. So we just have to realize that we can do it. That inner power, that we are we are really powerful, amazing beings if we just realize it. I've stopped so many things just by knowing that. You just have to know that, and that's what I would suggest to everybody about the Project Oblivion. Know that we are more powerful than them.
Yeah, if there are little projects that worked all the way up till now, it's not like because they gave it a new name, it's going to work all of a sudden. Now, I in terms of Christopher countermeasures and grays and how powerful we are, Christopher Jacobs, he says that because he's SSP and has been targeted and all this stuff, he says in many of the instances where the grays come at him now, when he's now awake and aware to it, he'll literally psychically and mentally do like a swipe at him, like just with his fingers, like a psychic sword thing. And in some cases, it says it like literally can cut off their heads in certain situations. In others, he says sometimes these gray, the more physical ones that are coming to abduct you, he says sometimes they're like weak and they're like, you can punch around like balloons. He says other times some of the units or models can be much stronger and they're actually like as strong as like metallic orangutans or something. So it depends.
All right, everybody be quiet for a moment of silence.
Yeah.
That's a rare moment.
Well, it seems to me like maybe the conversation is sort of nearing an end. I don't know if I'm assuming here, but yeah, maybe that's part of the reason why we had a little moment of silence is because we're kind of wrapping things up. Is there anything else that anyone wants to say before we do that?
And I just wanted to say that I feel like honestly, like last night was I think it was a positive thing. Like I'm not very political. Everybody here knows this. I'm against the establishment. I really am. But I voted for Trump because I got coerced into thinking he can make a change, and I hope he can. I really do. And I know Nate was at January 6th, so Nate feels like he can. I know Brian feels like he can. I just had a guy on my show an hour before this. We were talking about maybe the effects of Trump and disclosure, or if it'll bring real change. And the guy almost took a bullet, and there's a lot of conspiracy theorists who, are doubting that was real, but I don't think it was. He came on Joe Rogan and he showed the scar on his ear, So, I mean, I just wanted to get everybody's opinion real quick on what you think last night meant to all of us, if it means anything to you. But I think it's important. Maybe we bring that up real quick.
I do. I'd like to say that I think that we, as a Miss Starseed group or whatever you want to call us, that we made a statement and we raised the consciousness enough that the consciousness started waking up, that the people started waking up. And I do believe that because all of us have been doing a lot of meditation, a lot of work on raising the consciousness of the world, of the United States at least, So I do believe that that's the first step in raising the consciousness. And I do believe, hey, 4 years ago when he was in, not 4, but when he was in office, we were better off, lots better off, much better off. I'd just like to have that again. Next.
Yeah, who doesn't want $1.80 a gallon for gas instead of $3.80 and more? Let's see, what should I say here? Well, yeah, as far as Trump goes, I mean, if you study the whole thing, you go all the way back, and you look at every one of these presidents, it's like a relay thing where they carry the flag for the new world order to the next one. So each president facilitates the tyranny of the next. And with Trump, we saw a departure from a lot of that, but you saw a lot of undermining. Like George Soros, for example, said that I'm going to put my people in his cabinet to undermine him. That was his son-in-law. That was other people that they put in there, and they literally surrounded him by the wrong people. Now, Trump is from a rich upbringing. He's from the establishment. He's not going to deal. He hasn't had to deal with the things that we've dealt with. So he's not really one of us, but he's the closest thing on that side to, to us. So we have to take not the lesser of the two evils, but what we can get out of this. And we have to make it into something more than he can do, because he's just one guy against the system with very few.
I like the comment that Mario put in here, which is he's saying it's about the collective choosing a timeline, and it's really so it's not about, to me personally, it's not really about who's president. It's about us choosing a better timeline every day and continuing to do the work. And if disclosure is more likely to come out through this, then great. But yeah, I'm just glad that people are optimistic for the future, I guess. There's a lot of, it's kind of a strange time because I know there's a lot of people who feel the opposite way. Half the country's all freaked out, but I think that people just need to. I think the biggest thing that we need to remember is that like it's time for us to figure things out and figure out how to like get along again. I think that's the thing that's bothered me the most about COVID and about just what I've seen in the last decade and stuff is like it's really divided people and it's made people like, I don't know, like it just seems like stupid to me like to be so divided. And I hope that like kind of like just like, I'm just hoping for the best. That's where I'm at. Like I've been kind of apolitical. I didn't vote, you know what I mean? But I'm glad that people are optimistic for the future and that people think that, a lot of people who are really downtrodden seem to be optimistic that we're winning. So that's good, I guess. That's where I'm at.
It definitely seemed like last night that I tapping into the energy at the inaugural address and that it was the first time in a long time, same kind of energy I felt during the convoy here in Canada, where it actually felt good for a change to be a bit patriotic. It actually was like, oh, that's the way it's supposed to be. We're not always supposed to feel bad about who
That
we
was
are.
actually the moment where I had a really big shift in the way I looked at the world was with the truckers, because like I remember thinking like, okay, if people want to get vaccinated or whatever, I shouldn't say that on the show, but if they
Right.
want to do it, that's up to them or whatever.
Sure.
But like I thought it was kind of crazy that these truckers were just saying, well, some of them were like skeptical about it, didn't want to do it, and then they're actually causing this huge change and doing all this stuff and actually shutting down the economy and showing this is what we can do if we put our minds to it. We are the power. You know what I mean? And then I saw
And
people
it wasn't just that they did it. Like because this didn't get covered on BBC and mainstream media, but I mean, people were coming out in the streets, rushing the streets and clapping like it was like a real rally. They were heroes. The horns of the trucks sounded like angels to us at the time. It was this wonderful thing. People are coming across Canada, all through small towns to, oh, the truck convoy is going to come through, and people would line the streets and cheer them on. It was an amazing feeling. You had like these Hutterites, it's like Amish up in Manitoba and that, coming out and bring their home baked goods and everything for the people coming through the towns. There was such a spirit of the people coming together. It wasn't based on hatred or anything, but people saying, no, we got this. And it was totally unplanned. It was very last minute, but that's the kind of thing that they can never anticipate. And that's what's so beautiful about it, because that convoy in itself, you notice that shortly after the whole thing with the Emergencies Act, that's when they had to bring out Ukraine hard. It was suddenly they just went straight to that narrative, because that convoy in Canada was inspiring European trucker convoys. It was starting to spread, and people were really revolting, and the establishment knew it. And they were like, quick, switch to camera B.
I think it created a higher timeline. I think that was an event in history that
I think what I was trying to say is I don't think like I said, I'm against the establishment. I think what last night showed was that, like, if anything, that Americans said for once that we still have a voice, and maybe this changes things for the better for the future. Like maybe this will change elections in the future about the way we. And also, a lot of people stood up and said, we don't want a part of this satanic, all this crazy shit that this other party is pushing forward, because we know it's really bad, right? A lot of the stuff they're pushing forward is just like really satanic, honestly, to the rotten core. It's Sean Blond last night called it on my show. He called it a death cult. You know what I mean? And I said, that's beautiful. That's like, and I think like a lot of people said, like, no more, man. Like, we want a different time. Even if Trump isn't the best person, which we know he isn't, right? He's not the best person. Like, if we could have had a better choice, a lot of us would have picked someone else, but we didn't give it a choice. We got him or her. and we had to go with what we were given.
Yeah.
It's like they don't give us a lot of choices. We had RFK, but RFK's on Trump's team, which I'm really excited about because they said RFK is going to go after the poisons in the food. RFK is going to go after the air and the chemtrails in the air, and RFK is going to try to get the fluoride out of the water. I don't know if he's going to be successful with that, but that's what I heard.
So I think that
got
is
me.
good. That I'm all about all the shit he's saying. People can talk any crap they want. It's true that in the past 30 years, our food has basically gotten poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just become poison, and then you see European countries getting totally different treatment.
Right.
And, you know what I mean? Their food's not poisoned. They don't have
literally all organic. Imagine
they don't
you
have
to sell organic.
Yeah.
Must.
I don't want chemicals in my food. Like I shouldn't have to read the ingredients on my food to know whether it's poisoning me or not. It should just be a given. That's not poisoning.
You shouldn't need a master's degree in chemistry to know what you're eating or what.
Exactly. Yeah. They give it all these crazy names too, like certain stuff that like you clearly wouldn't want to eat. They'll give it some sort of crazy scientific sounding name, so you don't understand what you're eating. They do all sorts of. I don't like it, and it's in everything. And then it's like you see like the people talking about cancer, like being like, anti-cancer, like donate to these cancer charities, and it's like, what are they doing to get rid of carcinogens in our food, and just the stuff that we buy? Like it's not just food; it's like stuff that we buy, like products we like. You wouldn't know there's stuff in there that causes cancer. It's just like, yeah, that's what that does have to change. So the idea is we need. Ironically, we really do need more regulation there, not less regulation. We need more regulation. And what I'm kind of afraid of is just like that not happening. I think that's really important, and hopefully Robert F. Kennedy can really shine the light on that to the point where where the corporations can't get in the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he wants to take the ads off TV. He wants to take the ads off TV. I hope he can do that.
Yeah, I think that makes
apparently,
sense too. Like cigarettes, you're not allowed to have cigarettes ads on TV, but then you've got these fast food companies advertising to your children. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Well, there was a report today that the pharmaceutical companies were pulling together an emergency meeting because they know that a lot of this is coming in. I kind of wanted to bring in. I always like to bring in the disclosure movement, kind of ascension perspective here for this, because as a lot of you have already said, this is about the people. There's a populist patriot truther movement to restore a republic that is totally backing Trump, and the other side, they had to cheat so badly in 2020, and here we are again. They weren't able to pull it off because there are white hats that are in our military and in our communities making sure that it wasn't stolen. And for me, it's out. Trump is he's a populist figure, and this was as much a referendum of the Illuminati derp state cabal's policies as anything else. And we know from a lot of our comrades here who've been through these time travel programs that the Hillary timelines, apparently those are the World War III neutrino bomb nuclear war timelines. Those are bad. And the Biden Kamala administrations are just an extension of that. And so to not have that is a good thing. We also know that on Trump's side of things, his family is involved with time travel. Okay, and the SSP, and even Arkim has seen him in the SSP in a positive way, versus so many of the other politicians and celebrities that are not in a positive way. And so I really am getting kind of tired of, just for me, it's kind of draining hearing people like, oh, they're just, red and blue. It's two sides of the same eagle or bird or whatever. For the most part, that's always been true up to now, but this is a very special time. And this is towards the end of this red-blue thing. That's going away. This might be the last president where we really are stuck in this conundrum.
Well, according to the book that is about Barron, where it's talking about time travel and stuff, according to the book, he's the last president.
Right.
I don't know
and I can see
what that means. But
well, probably
a lot of people think that.
or the current setup probably is how I'd see it, because before we have like bigger changes. And then the last thing, so I'm really against that whole disempowering message. So I'm glad that everyone has already raised the idea of like it's the masses and it's on us to do it. But
Yeah, I
let's
just don't.
utilize
I
the
just
best
don't see the
leadership we
point in
have.
being negative at all. Like, I mean,
Yeah, it's disempowering. It doesn't help. And then the last thing is, if you really are that hung up on Trump and you love him or you hate him, just realize at any given time he could get swapped out with a clone, a body double, a CGI
Yeah,
avatar.
those are some of the worries that I have, because they just
Right.
plan everything and it's all stage, and I do oftentimes have these thoughts of what if this is all just another extension of that? But we'll see, we'll find out.
Let's just
Time
hope
will
the
tell.
white hats, have those proper things. I think it's a lot like we were talking earlier today, and so much of it just reminded me of the film Inception, right? I just think it's a good one to go back into again. I think, this time I think Trump's also going to learn something about having his own psychic security team. Forget just the secret security. You see, you've got to get your psychic security team, and he surrounded himself.
Yeah.
Outside of those politicals, these people like Dana White, all these other people are not part of the political establishment. And I think these are the kind of people who are probably going to let him know about stuff like this. Like, dude, you've been doing this all this time without your psychic security team. Are you insane? So I think those kinds of things might happen a bit more going forward. And I think we do need that optimism and the faith, not foolhardy, but really to make use of this time. I think the other thing that's interesting about this presidency, we know they only have 4 years at the moment. So it's really 4 years that we also have to do a lot of work. And we're going to use this window to our best advantage.
Yeah, and I
it's
kind of just
important
like
to think
I'm
about.
tired of people like thinking that like that's it. Who so and so's in office? It's like no, like we the people, that's the biggest part. Is people have to start living different. We have to build our communities different. We have to just totally change the way we live. We have to be more community oriented, know our neighbors better.
Family
Like the
oriented.
change, we sometimes forget that it's a lot of it's up to us. Like a lot of it's simple
Mhm.
small things that are up to us. So that's like always my message is just like we the people have all the power, and these other like politicians are supposed to just be tools that we use to get shit done. That's how it's supposed to be. So
Mhm.
We get rid of a lot of, if we can transition to get rid of that maritime admiralty system, we can get back onto the law of the land. I think this
that
is a
would be
lot of
really
what we're
important too.
talking
Yeah,
about.
That's what
I'm
this
not.
movement.
Restoring the new earth, is getting rid of that alien control structure, this
Mhm.
That's
globalization,
the movement.
financialized control structure. Get back into natural law, get back into the traditions of our peoples,
Thank
respecting that
you.
we have
Yeah.
differences, that we can live in different parts of the land,
Mhm.
that we can express ourselves and have cultures. And it doesn't mean chaos. We're actually restoring order. And I think that's what we need to do is really shift, get that maritime admiralty crap out of here and get us back on the land, natural law, all of that
And be
good stuff.
treated as natural persons and not
Natural beings.
corporations,
They're not
not.
even these
Now
persons
what?
or whole corporations. So
Now I want to know what is Olivia James of Gray Mouse? What is her take on
I
the
was going to say, what does Olivia think about
uh,
this? We haven't heard her. Yeah, that's a good
About
point, Brian.
political,
what this
Yeah.
presidential outcome from
I
the
don't
election last night?
necessarily have a political opinion, but I do have a message from my higher self, and it just said, the quieter we become, the more detrimental it's going to be to our movement. Keep speaking, keep telling the truth to make a firm stand against these people, and
Mhm.
that you do not need to wait for an alliance. You make your own alliance in the disclosure community. You don't need anyone else. Make
Mhm.
it yourself.
You know what, Olivia? I just wanted to tell you when I asked you when you were on my show and I asked you about Project Oblivion, and I said, "What's going to happen to me?" Because and you're like, "I'm not sure," but you were like, "Just keep talking," and I was like, and you said, "No matter what, just keep doing what you're doing and keep talking," and I kind of took that to heart, So thank you
Yeah.
for that,
Yeah, and I wanted to say that when it was me and Misha, when I talked to Spirit, they're very firm in saying that you are very important to our disclosure movement, just for the way that you allow various people to have a platform to talk without judgment. You're allowing everybody on there, and
Yeah.
somewhere something big and positive is noticing that. Even my dad says that from where he's at, he's passed away. They can see what we're doing here on Earth, and he said it all the work makes them very proud that they're watching and waiting and cheering us on, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
I
thank
agree.
you. That means a lot.
I
Yeah,
agree.
just say they want to build a one world government, and we need to build one world with one people and kick their ass.
I agree, Nate. I agree.
Yeah. And yeah, the World Economic Forum, we gotta be worried about those people. We can't let them win. They're very dangerous. So let's keep our eye on them and get rid of them.
He'll get out of that.
Agreed.
He'll get out of it again. He did once.
And the European Union, it's sort of done for in these next 4 years. You're looking. We talk about WEF, but a lot of the WEF stuff you see being put in through the European Commission, and they've certainly not made friends with Donald Trump. So they're really
Well,
scribbling
and
at this
people in
point.
Europe are really fed up with
Yeah.
the way that they're handling things too. They're not happy with it.
Absolutely, it's tyrannical. They're openly talking about enshrining censorship law, right? Like to make it an actual formal law. They call it pre-bunking, not debunking. The problem is letting the information get out at all. Never mind trying to censor it after it even gets out. So they just want to make this massive net that will just use AI to filter everything through, like we're living in China through some kind of. This is what they wanted to do. So this is a big thing that we averted by just having this different timeline. And I think that's really important.
Well, they want to merge us with
the EU would have made it normal. Sorry?
That said that with all the targeting and stuff, they want to merge us with AI. That's why these people are finding self-assembling nanites inside their body. You know, they're trying to merge people with AI, and the TIs are the test subjects.
But we're winning on a lot of fronts. Even this WEF stuff, like Canada's abandoned its CBDC pursuit, like its central bank digital currency. Julian Assange is being let out. There are some really positive developments I think people really have to look at, because things like Assange getting out, that was a miracle nobody ever expected to happen. Nobody. The odds on him getting out were like as slim as can be. And yet it happened. And these things are happening. And that's what we need to focus on. It doesn't matter about the improbability. Yeah, statistically, it shouldn't be able to be that our movement's going to go forward. They're right. We are weak at the moment. But that's just for now. And who's not to say it was all part of a elaborate game of our higher selves in the first place to give them the false confidence that they could take us out so easily. You know what? we're playing a pretty deep game ourselves here of chess. And just because our conscious minds aren't always aware doesn't mean our higher selves aren't organizing all of these meetings so that we do this and bring it out into the 3D world and all of this. We're a lot more savvy than they even know, and that's what's good about it too.
Yeah, somewhere there's a handler just shorted out a brain chip after you said that.
Hey, I look at it and I think, man, I remember one time I was in a state of change and they explained to me, they just said, your deep cover. And I thought about it and I'm like, yeah, and what if deep cover meant you even went through lifetime and different incarnations just to build the right profile, just to be the mole in the perfect operations? And let's not think that we're just victims here. Let's look at maybe our higher self is playing a deeper game. If you watch that movie Cypher, that's an excellent Canadian film. It's hard to find with Lucy Liu in it, but it's one where a guy brainwashes, basically subjects himself between two big companies to brainwash himself, erase his own identity, because it's the only way he can get through their security systems to get deep enough inside, find the file that's the assassination order for his lover, and he takes it and he escapes, and then as he's escaping in the helicopter, he remembers finally who he is. So let's look along these lines, and that way we can feel a lot less disempowered.
Yeah, got to carry out the mission.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
We
We're
don't.
manifestors and creators. That's what we are.
Well, we're gonna wrap things up here. I hope everybody has a really great night. Just remember to love each other out there. Spread kindness, spread love. That's how we change the world. And it's important to do that. I guess that's what I wanted to end on. And just everything's gonna be okay. We got this. We are manifesting a higher timeline. That's some real talk. So I'm gonna end the stream now, guys.
Yep. Before we start up, this is for Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon. They messed with the wrong
For Peanut
people
the
and
squirrel.
animals.
That's really the catalyst of the revolution is Peanut the squirrel, probably.
Secret Squirrel Club, right? You got the
Yeah.
patch.
The
R.I.P.
Secret Squirrel
Peanut.
Club. Yeah. Rest in peace. All
All
right.
right, guys.